Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is an exciting one. There's a lot to talk about. We have new subbing available for the LCS Twitch channel. We're going to talk about that. We obviously have some exciting emote drama that is occurring in League of Legends. Oh, yeah, and by the way, there were some playoff games this weekend, if you missed those. If you did, maybe you saved yourself a little bit of agony. We'll talk about the first week of LCS playoffs as we get into your calls. But first off, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host, Cubby here. Cubby, how's it going?
I'm doing good. Playoffs existed. I do want to shout out Challengers League playoffs as well, which were actually quite fun this past weekend. But it's pretty funny. This is something that I usually hold up, when I'm working with a caster remotely in the camera, just say I have something small to interject. And when players end up holding it up, that's the most entertaining thing that happens all weekend in terms of playoffs. So,
it was the IRL, the sniper IRL emote. I feel like was the
oh my god,
because I went back. We'll talk about it in a second, but I had to watch VODs this weekend of the matches because I missed them live. And I like to, whenever I do this, also go and look at sort of the Reddit threads to see what was the discussion and the topic, and did I miss anything as I was watching the VODs. And I was surprised at how much the sniper IRL emote. It was basically wow, these teams suck. Well, the losing teams at least, and then wow, that sniper IRL emote. And that was the big stories from the last 2 days. But I think there's a lot more to talk about from the last couple or from the last week, so it's going to be a good one. But yes, I agree with you on that, Cubby. Other than that, how you been?
I've been good. I've got to catch up on a lot of review. I've committed to trying to do the LEC season finals as well, but this is kind of the fun, busy part of my week. We had Saturday where I worked, and Saturday ended up being Mark or Rafa's birthday, my roommate.
Oh, nice.
So we ended up hanging low.
I like that you say ended up. Saturday, you're like, whoa, wow. It turns out today's going to be his birthday. That's a huge deal.
It kind of did end up being that way because he was low key about it, which I respect. But his parents gifted him MLB Slugfest 2003, so we ended up playing that on GameCube.
What a very specific gift.
It was great. So that was pretty much it. And we had some folks over for board games. I also, Travis, saw you on Thursday as we were at a gathering. I did not play Magic, but I was at a Magic event. And I know you had a really fun weekend, too.
So I had a crazy weekend in between watching following along with the LCS stuff as much as I could, and then watching VODs today. We have had a jam-packed thing where helped FlyQuest host a mixer for the Magic the Gathering event that was happening in town this weekend, Command Fest, and so had a bunch of creators from all over the place, including some of the Dropout folks, which was really cool for those that are familiar with Convention 20 and all that stuff. They came over to the FlyQuest facility and helped kind of manage and host that mixer for them. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was at Command Fest. But Friday night, I went to, as you might see from my shirt, the Guts Tour with Olivia Rodrigo. And boy, I will tell everybody, going from a Magic the Gathering event to a Olivia Rodrigo event in the same day, that is about as whiplash as you can get from a demographic experience. Those it just completely inverted the audience and people that were around me. So much so that I was like, should I not be enjoying this music? But no, it was a very good time. She put on a great show. The mixer was fun. I'm glad you made it out. Shout out to Numi for helping out with that.
I see you got a shirt too from the concert.
Yes.
Nice.
I showed that a second ago, but you were maybe you didn't see, but yes, I have two shirts. This is the more reasonable one, but I have a very interesting bright purple one that has her face all over it that I think I'm more likely to wear ironically than seriously. But it was she put on a great show. So shout out to Olivia. I just want to say it was really nice that she let me attend her show. If she is interested in ever participating or calling into or even co-hosting Hotline League, I would be fine with that. She could join the two of us, and
Yeah.
she could bring on Chapel Roan, who I know she had as an opener at the start of the year on her tour. So I don't know if they've maintained that friendship, but we could have the four of us just talking about LCS and all that stuff. So yeah, great time. Shout out to FlyQuest, and good to have you and
Yep.
Numi attend the event.
Yeah.
But
for Numi, kind of contractually obligated,
yes,
But
yeah.
I had fun popping in. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice. For some reason, I offered to pay Numi for all the work that she did on that event, and she said it was already covered. I guess her second employer covered her work on that, so that's kind of nice. I'm happy. I'm happy she has that sort of side hustle with FlyQuest. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about this past week. I don't know. What is your general assessment, Cubby? I know we'll get into some calls, but I feel like if I was to miss in-person matches for any of the playoffs like this, I had thought like, oh, I feel a little guilty. And then watching back the games, I did not feel guilty for having missed those.
Yeah. Man, I mean, the first series was just an absolute clapping. I was so I predicted Dignitas 3-2 because I actually thought their recent tape Dig were doing a lot better job of like setting up objectives. And then I had FlyQuest 3-1 just because I thought they would drop a game, which they ended up doing.
Yeah.
I actually think FlyQuest can take some positives from their series. I know I'm jumping around a bit, but I thought the last 2 weeks of regular season, Masu and Busio did not play quite as well as they were for the rest of the split. Like, if they kept up their performance in the first 5 weeks, I legitimately think, like, if they played better against C9 too, they could have beaten Berserker and Vulcan for second team All-Pro. But they played really poorly against Shopfire Rebellion and did not have a great match against C9. They played much better, which is a good sign for FlyQuest moving forward.
Yeah, I feel like Bwipo's starting to pull an impact as well too, in just terms of like about strengthening up ahead of or into playoffs.
Yeah,
do you remember the impact meme for a while that like impact in playoffs would already show up? I don't know. Maybe I'm off base here, but it does feel like Bwipo's looking a little stronger because he seemed to not have a great regular season, which we never really talked about too much on the show.
Yeah, I think it helped that. I don't think Dogo had the strongest season either.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, I know that the broadcast was talking a lot about how that team kind of lives and dies by Bwipo.
Yeah.
Which I somewhat agree with, but I do think they kind of lived and died by their bot lane for at least the last 2 weeks of the regular season. But again, Masu and Busio had a really nice series. So I do think it's a positive for FlyQuest. Meanwhile, 100 Thieves just came out and like absolutely clapped Dignitas, man. I don't know what to say about that series. That was brutal. Dignitas got 4 turrets in the whole series, and each game was faster than the next. And like after the game won, like Baron, it was just all downhill from there. Like they just never bounced back from that. They got absolutely destroyed.
Which is really strange because like with a team like Dignitas, you would expect that they'd be able to not tilt out. So I don't know if it was that or desperation in terms of how things went. I don't know. It just I did not expect that series to be that one-sided. I don't even know. I'd have to go back and think about, or maybe watch last week's episode because I'm not even sure if I expected 100 Thieves to beat Dig. So I don't know. That was just, I don't know what happened to Dignitas, man. And I guess that's such a stupid sentence because we should all know what happened to Dignitas. It was Dignitas, and that's just how this team functions and this org functions. But it's a bit of a heartbreaker because, as I've said so many times on the show, I really wanted them to be good. Obviously, they're not out yet, and we should say going into this weekend, we've got first off. So just so everybody knows, because I know that it's a lot of people get used to sort of the rhythm. If you missed this announcement, this week there are 3 matches. There's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Friday's Energy Dig. Saturday we've got 100 Thieves TL. Sunday we've got Fly C9. So there should be some good League of Legends to watch this weekend. And yeah, things are going to get spicy, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm sure we'll get some calls about that. I guess we don't need to touch on it too much, but if we're seeding the calls, as we sometimes like to do, if anybody wants to talk about the fact that Riot announced that you can now sub to the Twitch channel. I think it's a little weird that it's happening so late in the season. It's like, congratulations, become a sub of LCS for the next month. But if you're going to become a sub of LCS for only month for any month, this one's a good one, right?
It is. Just shout out to Challengers League, because we've been doing this for over a year, and it actually directly supports teams and players in the league, which is sweet. But Travis, we have to find some ways to keep the spirit of Ren alive. So
the spirit of Ren, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Nobody will know what this is. It's such an inside joke. I feel like. Well, some people here know what Ren is, but
we've joked about it enough. I feel like.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So we can talk about that. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about the emote drama. I actually don't really care too much about the emote drama. I feel like it's like,
I don't care. I find it hilarious that the 100 Thieves players are just making fun of it.
Yes.
I think it's so funny. They changed the BDS one, which had a fishhook on it.
Yes. I am surprised.
How did Ryan not see that one coming?
Okay.
I mean, come on.
Okay. Explain to me, Cubby and or chat, what is it supposed to be if it's not making fun of your size?
I honestly, I
like this
don't know.
this close or something? Is it supposed to be like, oh, it's this close?
Okay, so they could have fixed this. Why? Yeah, I think it's so close. I mean, they could have fixed this first off by, if they wanted to have hands like that, just do love, right?
Well, yeah, but that's a different term.
Right? It is, but I feel like that would work with the emotes still.
Yeah.
And I just don't. Yeah, I find the outrage so funny, and I'm really glad that Sniper is and 100 Thieves are all just running with it.
Yeah, Papa Smithy is saying what I thought it was, which is it's supposed to be like, you solo killed at 1 HP, so close, bro.
I mean, a lot of those emotes, some are cool team-wise. Like, the FPX one is awesome. That thing's a phoenix. It's very clear that, they had a good idea for some of the teams. Dignitas Baron Throw is really funny.
We should say, by the way, because maybe some people missed this announcement, but they have revealed emotes that are going to be going into the game, League of Legends, the game, that will be available to pick up for your favorite team. And some of these emotes feel very team oriented, where you see even their logo on screen or on the emote, and then some of them feel like just a generic emote. And I don't know if that's specific to the I don't know if it's because the team is we should make it more generic because then we'll make more money, even though it won't have our logo on it. The Team Liquid one, Cubby, do you know which one I'm talking about?
I do not.
It's a Teemo with a white flag, a surrendering Teemo. And I feel like maybe there's a reference there that I don't know, which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit.
None. I think they just wanted to have Teemo because Teemo's popular. Also, the white flag emote, I've looked multiple times to get that in the store because I feel like that's hilarious. I love when there's an ace, because you can auto set the emotes that pop up, and teams coordinate them, and they'll have the white flags or stuff. I find that super funny. I wish I could own that emote. So I do appreciate trying to at least have the white flag in there. But yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it makes more money for Team Liquid than a lot of the other emotes, even though Team Liquid's not in it, because it feels specific. I think the Clown 9 one, which is Jinx as a clown, is also pretty good.
Yeah, that one's decent.
So,
I don't know. The Dignitas one though is just iconic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the kind of stuff if you're a team, if you take advantage of, it's pretty cool. Whereas others, it's just kind of it's whatever. Or it just doesn't matter. So oh well.
So that came out. Okay, besides playoffs, the emotes, the Twitch subbing situation, is there any major announcements or any major news that I'm forgetting about? I guess World Finals tickets went on sale, and there was always the continual drama of that. Did Numi end up getting any? No. Numi, are you in chat?
No.
She did not. Okay.
I believe she tried both nights.
Well, if Numi did not get it, then I definitely know that it's impossible to get them because she is the queen of getting access to tickets. So, but that's pretty brutal to hear and unfortunate. So I'm sorry for everybody who was trying to get tickets. Have we seen yet? Have we done the normal thing that we do where we take a look and see how much they're going for on the resale market? Because 2 years ago, I guess it was, I did the like, how much did you pay to get your ticket here for LCS or for World Finals in San Francisco, and it was crazy. So I'm curious what the scalpers are up to now. But if anybody wants
We
to
do some
comment about
homework.
that, yeah.
See if I can find scalp tickets.
But anything else that I am forgetting? Parth in the chat just says test. All right. Oh yeah, John Needham has a new title. That's a great point. Yes, John Needham, who was the president of esports, now is becoming the president of esports and publishing. So he has 2 different things underneath him at Riot. Arcane announcement. Parth wants to know why he's a mod here. I don't know. I can take it away from you if you'd like. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do for you, Parth. All right. Anyway, let's get into some conversations because it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
Cubby, do you want to explain how the show works?
Yeah, as always, guys, this is a call-in show. So if you want to have your take, me and Travis would love to hear it. Go into the Discord, discord.gg/Travis or command Discord, !Discord. Join, drop your take at me and pleb takes or, subtopics. And then you got to join the call. There have been a few takes that are actually pretty good, but you do have to be in the call so I can drag you down the waiting room. So if you have a good take and you want to drop it, we got some decent topics, especially with playoffs going on. We're going to find out 2 of the teams we send the Worlds this upcoming week. I think a lot of people are expecting that to be TL and C9, but we'll see if it changes. And yeah, if you want to join, go for it.
I was so distracted talking about all the exciting news that I almost forgot to shout out our amazing sponsors for the show, NZXT, PrizePicks, and Kia. We'll be talking more about all 3 of them over the course of the show, but I do really appreciate all of their support, so thank you to all 3 of them. And if you are a sub, first off, thank you for being a sub, or a Twitch member. If you become a Twitch member, you get access to some exclusive content over there. If you become a Twitch sub, you get ad-free viewing and some other cool stuff. But in both situations, you are helping to support what we're doing here, and it's really appreciated, especially as we're trying to figure out what it's going to cost for me to get over to Worlds in a little bit. But I do want to mention that you can also sync your Discord with your YouTube or your Twitch to make sure you get access to the Subtopics channel. If you do, you can put your take in there. It moves a little slower, so it's something that we check on to see if we can get some folks in from there. No guarantees, of course, but it is another avenue for you to share your takes and try to get pulled onto the show. Just again, make sure that you are in one of the channels so that Cubby can call you as we do that. But yep, thank you so much to everybody who does sub, and thank you to all of our sponsors for doing so, or for sponsoring the show, I should say. Cubby, do you want to go ahead and get our first caller?
Yeah, got it.
Off he goes. Thank you to, speaking of subs, Pugsley, 95, Numi Goes Rar, thank you for the 26 months. Mohika, Mamo Tomi, Director Donut for 3 years. And Daddy Please Spank Me, thank you for the 28 months. Brandon Myers, thank you for being a member for the last 6 months over on YouTube. Really appreciate it. All right, Cubby's grabbing the next caller. Well, the first caller, I should say. I feel like I'm getting a little under the weather. We were talking about it at the start of the show. So if I feel a little bit more low energy on this week's episode, I apologize. I'm going to try to bring in as much as I can, and hopefully it's just maybe it's the thing where I didn't sleep as well last night, but we're gonna see over the next couple of days if Travis is dead. All right, Aggro's here. Aggro, where are you calling from?
From Southgate, California.
Southgate, California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
A bit of a spicy. I feel like a lot of popular narratives going around, like Impact.
You're kind of cutting in and out. Sorry, Aggro. You said there's a lot of popular narratives going around, like what?
Like Impact being MVP and the C9 TL final. But I want the spicier take. I think River and Quid are the best mid jungle in the LCS, and I also believe that FlyQuest and better with them.
Sorry, FlyQuest is what?
And C9 would be better with them. Yeah.
I think Quid and River, are the best in those.
Quid and River are the best players in the
Mid-jungle.
LCS. Mid-jungle, dude.
And
Okay.
Yeah.
I also believe that Fly and C9 would be better with them on their.
Gotcha. Yeah, Aggro, for some reason you're cutting in and out. I'm not sure why. But, all right. So the take is on our 100 Thieves players being the best mid-jungle duo in the LCS. Yeah, I mean, so first off, I do want to note that voting for all of the awards and everything happened last week. We should have mentioned at the start of the show. That was something that I forgot, and also I guess chat forgot because nobody mentioned it. But we did find out that Team Liquid won Coach of the Split. Speaking of the voting, but yeah, all the voting is closed. So just keep that in mind as we see playoffs go, because I think sometimes people see the stuff get revealed and they go, "What? That player got exposed in playoffs," but that's because it's based off of regular season performance. I really like this take. I think it's obviously well timed following the 100 Thieves match this past weekend. But I think it's been these are really good players. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that like Impact is somehow fraudulent in the idea that this player deserves MVP, but I do like the fact that 100 Thieves players are getting some attention, because so much of the conversation this year has been, well, I should say the split has definitely been about players on the top 3 teams, unless you're talking shit, in which case I guess there's some players and teams near the bottom that are also having part of that conversation. But Cubby, I'm curious what you think of all this.
My gut reaction to seeing this take is like you, but the more I think about it, the more I think it like, I don't think it'd be an upgrade for C9, but I could maybe argue that it'd be a side grade. Like, I'm thinking of their year and not just the split, because 100 Thieves was not a great team this split. But I mean, River for me, he was my MVP vote last split. I had him over Quid, who ended up winning it, right? And I know that they didn't have the best playoff, but they were like 2 really strong players. I think that the improvement of Quid throughout last split compared to summer, and then where he still has been at this split, is a great story. River has always been a really strong jungler in the league, no matter where you put him on the totem pole. I don't get a ballot, but I had neither of these players in my top 3. So I had Blabber as my 3rd team All-Pro, and I had JoJo as my 2nd team All-Pro mid, I believe.
Yeah.
So like by that logic, I don't think I'd swap them out. But I actually think that at least with C9, like River and Quid do like to be active on the map, and I feel like that could help Berserker and Thanatos, like playing like kind of through mid to then get out of mid. Whereas I think that right now C9 plays through mid for JoJo, which I think is good. But I could see the other strategy like being fine in their roster. I don't think it'd upgrade FlyQuest. I could see C9 being a side grade to just change their style a little bit. I wouldn't make any changes, but I appreciate some of the love that we're showing to River and Quid. Like, they deserve it after this past week. I just don't think they've put together like the cohesive split to say that they would upgrade one of the teams in the top 3 right now.
Yeah, I don't think I definitely disagree with the idea that like C9 or whatever is that they would be a better fit for C9. But Caller, I'd love to hear sort of more of your explanation, because I know we kind of just ran into it.
I think I'm judging, I think, a bit more based off eye test. I've been a C9 fan for a long time, and I think Blabber has always been his best at a mid that can, I think, aggression playstyle. And I think JoJo is great. I think him and AP are still by far the best laners in the whole league, and he has good clutch factor. But I think Blabber needs somebody with a little bit more synergy. Like, I can think of like Blabber in their prime, and I think that peak still is way better than what we have seen from JoJo and Blabber's peak. JoJo and Blabber. I think Fire Quad has great. Quad has team, but I don't know. I just like Inspired and Quad are still. I don't want to say they're fumbling, but I think Fly. I think they looked great in last quarterfinal, but I don't know. I think Inspired last split looked a lot better than split, and I think River and Quid have amazing synergy, and I feel like that's what's 9 unlocked potential.
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I think you're cutting in and out a decent amount, but I think we did get a chunk of that for the most part that we could kind of respond to.
At least, like, I can see the synergy argument, like, with these two playing off each other. Again, that's why I think, like, they would at least change up the style maybe a little bit for C9. But, yeah. I don't think that they would upgrade either one. I think that if they went to C9, I'd actually be kind of curious to see them play that style where they play for Thanatos and Berserker more. I think that might be good for them, actually. But I wouldn't change it up.
Do you think it might be good for them on 100 Thieves even, Cubby?
I mean, they kind of already do it. Again, the way that I read 100 Thieves is like they're going to play through mid to then activate mid and then go affect other parts of the map. And so they kind of do that already. But yeah, I think if you made like the whole swap and put Blab or JoJo within 100 Thieves, does it upgrade their team? I don't know. Maybe. It depends on how well like Sniper could play alone, but I don't see that yet. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess one thing I want to add it, if I'm not that part of this from a bias of being a River fanboy, and I really want to see River on a team with a really solid. I think Sniper's great, but I think we can all agree that 100 lives and die by their mid jungle. I think Tomo's been great. It gives them a lot more firepower now, but I would really love to see River on a great team, or at least with like already very strong win. And I think if I'm River on a better team, I'd want Quid with, because I can see that synergy is already kind of built in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I have just generally enjoyed about River over the years is how much he's contributed to the LCS as a jungler. And I think it's been fun to see him on 100 Thieves. I mean, I think there was a lot of skepticism when he first came over, but he continues to be really strong. And like, I definitely feel like this 100 Thieves roster is this. Well, we'll see what happens next year, but hopefully the beginning of sort of a next generation of what a team or lineup can do. And I feel like he's been really instrumental in helping them get there. So I do really give a ton of, just respect towards River for his LCS career so far. And I mean, we'll see what happens against Team Liquid, but it's going to be an interesting playoffs. And I'm really happy that 100 Thieves is hopefully showing up a little bit more than people expected them to, given off the regular season. Cubby, what do you think of 100 Thieves going into playoffs? I mean, obviously they're going to be facing Team Liquid. I don't think that I'm sure it's like a 90-10 odds situation, but what are your hopes for them in general?
I don't know, man. I feel like this team actually is just kind of riding the high. Like ever since Tomo came in, I think that Mitra was really struggling to split. It was kind of tough for them to play because they bot lane was just behind bad like every single game. It feels like Tomo coming in is actually kind of patched that up, and the whole team's kind of vibing together because they're just experiencing success off of an upgrade for a player. So I think they can ride it. I mean, the vibes are good. Do I think they beat TL? No. Do I still think that we're going to get TL, C9, and FlyQuest that go to Worlds in some way, shape, form, or order? Yes. But I do think that the team that everyone's looking to challenge that is going to be 100 Thieves now. And I mean, they're confident. Like, if you're walking out like off stage, like doing this as a team of 5 after you stomp 3-0, that has some pretty insane aura to it. So I kind of just want to see if I can run with it and see what happens. Some
pretty insane aura to it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you're helping us bring in the younger generation, Cubby.
Thank you. Doing our best.
All right, Aggro, anything you want to shout out here at the end?
The shout out to your font. Have a good.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you could get a check on that microphone too before we get next on the show, because I really appreciate your taking your explanation, but I'm sure it was hard for some folks to hear. But I appreciate you calling in, and hope to catch you next time.
Yeah.
All right.
It was a bit in and out. I tried. I was like, can you get closer in the call? It was a little unlucky.
Yeah, I think it was probably like a noise gate issue or something.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Suppression, but it is what it is. It's hard whenever you have a show like this to be able to get everything lined up correctly at the beginning. But as we're talking about upgrading your hardware, I think now's a great time to segue so smoothly into our conversation about NZXT. I just saw the Ravenous Muffin over in Twitch chat ask, what is Travis's NZXT link? It's nzxt.co/Travis. But the great news is that you can also just use that link in the chat, or you can use the link in the YouTube description if you're watching on YouTube after the fact, or the podcast descriptions if you're listening there, to get that link over there. It's also Travis5 is the code, and that's going to save you on your purchase over at NZXT. They've got a great page that they recently just launched that showcases a ton of the really cool stuff that we're using to power Hotline League, all the hardware that we've got going on. And I would also check out, for instance, for our last caller, the components, or sorry, the gaming gear section up at the top, where you can find out all sorts of cool stuff about the audio options that they have, including cardioid USB microphones. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that correctly. I've never had to pronounce it in real life, so this is the first time. Relay, etc. Just some really cool stuff that they have over there, including headsets, subwoofers, speakers, a switch mix, microphones, all sorts of cool components and accessories for your computer. And speaking of computers, they've got amazing pre-built gaming PCs like the Player 1, Player 2, Player 3, but they also allow you to pick up some components, cases, fans, power supplies, etc. for your PC. So regardless of if you are a person who just likes to buy a PC outright, or maybe you're the type of person who likes to build your own, they've got awesome things for you. So please go check out NZXT. Really appreciate their support of the show. They've been a great sponsor for us, and they've signed up for a full year. So you're going to be hearing more about them over time. I think they were teasing an announcement at Gamescom too. So hopefully we get to see what that is, and maybe we'll be able to talk about it on next week's episode of Hotline League. But again, thank you so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show, and really appreciate their support. All right, Cubby. Well, first off, Cubby, I should ask, are we looking for some more takes? It looks like we might have a few folks in the rooms waiting.
There's plenty of room, guys. We got a lot of show left, and a lot of takes still that we can take. So, I've only got one more in the waiting room. So if anyone wants to hop on in.
Yeah, we've been trying to do a better job, because I think in the past people get a little...
I'd stack it up.
Yeah, people, and not, I mean, Mark did this as well. It's the beginning of the show. Everybody's spamming all their takes, etc. And so we want to make sure that even if you're showing up a little later in the episode, you don't feel like you've been boxed out of being able to call in. So please go ahead and put those takes in the pleb calls and sub calls takes chat, and we'll continue to pull folks throughout the show. But Cubby's off to grab the next caller right now. We've got some cool folks who have decided to support the show by becoming a YouTube member or a Twitch sub, like Chris over there, who just became a TGI intern on the YouTube channel. Thank you, Chris, for doing so. Kanoke for the resub at 53 months. It's crazy. Sherd, thank you for the Prime. Magnarius for the 2 years. And Apple Thief, thank you for the 10 months. We've got our next caller here, Bug Juice Reviews. I've seen you comment, I feel like, on a lot of the YouTube videos saying things like, but is there a review of Bug Juice or I don't even know what Bug Juice is. Can you explain what this is, caller?
Oh yeah. So Bug Juice is a kids fruit drink that me and my friends got really obsessed with when I was in college, and I ended up just starting a review channel for it, and now I've got over 100 subscribers, which I know, big numbers, but it's just become my thing, I guess.
All right, I'm Googling Bug Juice right now. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from a hotel bathroom in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Why are you in a bathroom?
Because my fiance is trying to fall asleep for work tomorrow.
Oh,
respect.
Well, that's very generous of you. I appreciate that. Well, we'll keep your voice down then. We'll try to be quiet as well. What would you like to talk about on the show?
All right, I think that even though they had a great performance last year, this is probably the end of the road for, I'm feeling, probably 4 of the 5 NRG members. Like I said, they were great last year at Worlds, and I was a CLG fan for them. Not really sure how I feel about NRG, kind of up in the air still. Kind of feel teamless right now. I just kind of support the LCS instead of supporting a team. But given this huge mental boom that they've had this year, and it just does kind of seem like a mental boom, even though we're shrinking down to 6 teams next year, I think it's going to be hard for a lot of these players to find spots next year. I think the one that's probably got the best chance, if I were to take a shot, would probably be Contracts. And it really sucks to say about the other 4 because, yeah, whatever, FBI's from Ocean, who he had a little bit of a, Korean in him. But these are all pretty much NA-based names. They're names that you can really associate with NA, considering, most of them are actually from North America. So I think even though they did great, I really don't see a way that they find spots. If they do, that's awesome for them. Congrats to all of them or any of them that do find a spot. But I think just given how bad it's been this year, it's going to be tough for them.
Okay. I mean, I find this one interesting. First off, I agree in terms of if I'm NRG the org, at this point you kind of have to blow it up, right? It's
Oh, yeah.
been what three, four splits now with like a very similar roster. I think that I will give this team credit and the org credit in the sense that they made small changes to actually get to a place of success, which I feel like a lot of teams actually learned from watching NRG build this roster, like to actually get to where they are now. Now, I do want to kind of make an amendment, or at least challenge something when it comes to this team. I'm going to go back to when contracts joined CLG. Okay, so this is the first iteration was Jenkins, Contracts, Palafox, Luger, and Poom. LCS Spring 2022, they took 8th. LCS Summer 2022, they took 4th and then ended up 5th, 6th, where they did have like a really competitive run in playoffs, and people were like, okay, like this is a team that's actually kind of legit, right? Because they'd lost to Liquid 2-3 in what was a really close best of 5. Same core, they took 4th in spring, then they took 5th, 6th again, and looked less competitive. That's when they brought in FBI and Ignar. That team was 5th in regular season. They, of course, won the split, went on to go 5 through 8 at Worlds and make quarters. After that, it is 6th into 5th, 6th, and it's 6th now in summer and looking like it's going to be a 5th, 6th result again, with only Hui being changed since then. So, did we just see this team strike gold for 6 months, and then did this team return to form? We had a lot of players return to LCS that I feel like, in a way, kind of buffed up the league this split. I don't know. Regardless, I do think that you have it's time for a big change. Like, I think the biggest difference at the runs for NRG were how well Dokla and Palafox were playing, and Palafox has really not had a good split.
Dude, 100%. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I feel like he was somebody who whenever I did that video in 2022 at Worlds, that was like, can you name this pro player or whatever?
Yes.
And it was Palafox. And it was fascinating because I think at the time a lot of people felt as though he was a really good player who had been kind of undiscovered. And so then in 23, it was really exciting that he started to get a lot of attention for what he was doing. I shouldn't say undiscovered because obviously he'd been playing in the league, but he was underrated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then he started getting all this attention. He starts doing really well. And then this year it feels like he's kind of collapsed. And I don't know if other mid laners have just gotten better. It feels like he, in particular, his performance has gone down. It's been heartbreaking as somebody who really likes him as a player.
Yeah, it's something where I don't know. It's too bad because it feels like Dokla is also in the same boat. I would agree that I think Contracts has a spot in the league. I will say that jungle is really deep, and I do want to give shout out to Challengers League because UG, Shaden, and XU are 3 junglers that I truly believe are LCS level players and just aren't in the ecosystem right now, given room. But I think that UG would be a middle of the pack jungler in LCS. There's even a new jungler I'm really high on in Challengers League, Kryra, that only got to play a little bit the back half of this split that I feel like is really strong, and he's a young player too. So I think that's the only thing that would stop Contracts from getting a spot if someone else rolled the dice. I do want to shout out though FBI. I actually feel like FBI has been the unsung hero of this team all year, and FBI has legitimately had a really good year of league. FBI for me, every time I watch this guy play, he is rock solid, and I just think that he's on a team that's struggling, and he doesn't really get credit for this. So, or I deserve credit for the play he's had this split just because of the team he's on.
Yeah, I think Contracts
kind of have a question to throw in, Cubby.
Yeah, what's up?
So I know last year when we were talking about APA maybe coming out, people said, well, who do you bring in? And I know I know Travis has also seen some tier 2, but I know you're more familiar with it, Cubby. So I was wondering, we talked about Palafox. Are there mid laners that you think would be good fits to not necessarily take his spot, but those that are LCS caliber that would be a good fit?
My all-pro ballot for NACL was ABO was my first team mid, and a lot of us have seen a Blazelv play. I think that there are a couple mid laners that are young that have they just need time. Like they have potential. I mean, keep in mind, I'm the guy that covers Challengers League, and I got a ton of flack this past year for saying that Mask was not a bad import. Because I didn't think our mids were ready because we promoted like 3 of our best mids to LCS, and we had 2 of the other best ones, and Spyrax and Copies say that they're not really going pro. I think that you could put Spyrax in LCS and he'd be fine. But I think Toasty's probably like the mid laner that has the best opportunity, but it's just been his first split, and he has a lot of improvements to make still before he goes pro.
I want to believe that Palafox can return to form. Like I would love to see him on another team next year, just to double check that like one bad year was not the end of his career and that there wasn't something else going on behind the scenes or whatever. I by the way, anytime these conversations happen, there's always a lot of conversation or a lot of response from the community. It's like, yeah, but they like gutted their coaching staff or whatever. They actually didn't. Yep. There were a couple departures, but Cubby, they still have 5 coaches.
I like the core of it stayed, but there is no doubt that they narrowed down a lot of the hands that were around the staff. It's not like the main people left, but a lot of the people that were helping out overall did end up like kind of getting picked off by other teams, or Energy just didn't keep all of them around. I think that it's overblown for sure, but also I just went through all of Energy's finishes with contracts and Palafox, and that was one thing that was different in the split where they were winning. I don't think it's that's got to be it, but I think that it could play into it a little bit. Regardless, I mean, I think that NRG it's just going to be a different look of a team next year, and I think a lot of those players can still play in the league, but you got to believe if you stuck with this core for this long and they kind of returned to where they were at and weren't able to run with the success they had, it's time to make some changes. Or I think you can build around a couple of the players in there. I still think FBI is a really, really solid player. But yeah.
Yeah, Bugjuice, you were saying that you thought it's the end of the road. Do you mean you think 4 of them? I guess you said that with the LCS downsizing, you don't expect to see a lot of these players in the league.
Correct. I don't even think that most of them are going to find a spot, which really, again, sucks to say because they were all, at least last year, they were amazing players, and throughout their careers, they've all had their good moments. Just, it feels sad to say with how they've been this year that it's going to be a struggle for them to find somewhere.
Yeah, thinking through it right now, I think that is a fair assessment. I know you said that there's going to be only 6. We're going down to 6 teams. We're not really going down to 6 teams. I feel as though there will be spots. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like there should be spots for some players on the promoted team and also the team that is coming in from LATAM. I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up 1 or 2 of the existing players. Maybe both these teams just roll in with their existing rosters, but I would be kind of surprised if they did. So it might not be that bad, but yeah, it is. God, it is brutal out there for an LCS pro who saw the academy system gutted last year, saw 20% of the league positions disappear, and then this year is seeing a quarter of the existing league turn into something else, and we don't really know exactly what that's going to look like from a roster position, but it's a tough market if you're looking for a job as an LCS pro. I will say that. So yeah, I hear you on the concern for the NRG players because I think that it's going to be rough for them going into next year.
Hey, I mean, I'm really curious. And I'm not saying this just based on energy. I'm saying this for every player in the league. I'm really curious what options will be like for going to a Brazilian team and playing in that league. You will end up competing when it comes to going to Worlds together, and there is a huge fan base over there. And I'm really curious if there are some players that don't find a spot in LCS, if they end up getting picked off by the Brazilian league and end up trying to beat us out when it comes playoff time.
Get ready to learn Portuguese, buddy.
It's going to happen to at least someone. I'd be shocked if it didn't, So yeah, and vice versa too.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, thanks so much, Bug Juice Reviews, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here?
Yeah, I'll shout out my fiance for once again letting me call in a hotel bathroom. Shout out Bug Juice if you ever get to see it. pretty much have only found it in the Midwest, but it's pretty good. They promote it. It's got less sugar than apple juice if you're worried about your sugar intake. Also, shout out to all of the TGI sponsors. They've been doing great work. It's awesome to see you get this rise back up. I watched that video of how you got each of those sponsors and how vastly different some of them were. It was pretty cool to see and hear. And then lastly, shout out to people involved in tier 3 scenes. I coached a high school team for a little bit. They did pretty well, won a state championship or two. And if you're actually out there helping them grow and maybe helping develop future NA pros, good to everyone that's doing that.
What year did you guys win the high school state championship? Because I might have casted it.
We won the ones for Virginia in actually just last year.
Oh, okay. I was 2001. Cool. Congrats. That's really cool. So
Yep.
props to you on your work there.
Yeah. Thanks so much again for the call. Thanks for the shout out. It's always nice to hear nice words from folks. So thank you so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Have a good one.
Everyone.
Yeah, so recently I actually had a player in Challengers League. He sent me a VOD. I casted his high school championship game, and with Play Versus back when they had it. It's kind of funny. So
Play Versus. Man, where did they? Whatever happened to them? They were really nice.
You know, the Riot exclusivity contract went about as not quite as planned, unfortunately. So I think Riot might have regretted that investment.
Yeah. It's just good old times.
Just maybe.
All right. We could move on to the next caller. We've got, by the way, a donation here, super chat from Icebreaker Mints for $2, who says berry raspberry bug juice is a 10 out of 10 beverage. I didn't know bug juice is I don't think it's available in California, and or it's a new brand. It was never a thing I understood. Bug juice as a title or as a brand does not sound particularly appetizing to me. But if they wanted to sponsor the show, I'm sure I would learn a lot about them as a brand and be particularly interested in maybe getting my mind changed and then changing the minds of the people that watch the show. We got Spates here. Spates, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Temecula, California.
I spent some time growing up there. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, Great Oak. I don't remember. Actually, no. My take is
Great Oak really pulling through on that one.
Yeah. General Sniper, if he doesn't get Rookie of the Split, it's a complete joke of an award because it's pretty much just recency bias at that point.
Really? Okay. Tell me more.
Pretty much it. If you want me to elaborate, I can.
Yes, please.
Sniper. I actually wasn't. I kind of thought he was kind of full of himself when he first came in, so I wasn't a fan. Then he solo killed every single human being ever. Pretty hype. And especially as a top laner, you don't get as much recognition. And then this season, it's just his team kind of fell off more than he did. And Masu was kind of irrelevant the first season where he got carried. But this season he's done pretty well. I'm not saying he's done bad, and he's definitely up there. But I think if we're going by better seasons, Sniper absolutely had a better season. It just was at the beginning, whereas Masu's is recently. Even on the dive, they stated. Even on the dive, they stated that I think it was Zale and Kobe. They were like, it's hard to argue against the Rise at the end of the split.
I don't think he played Rise.
All right.
God damn it, Travis.
Did you have any? Kobe, I was going to ask. I know you can't vote, but
yeah,
how much would you weigh summer over spring, if at all?
I would weigh it a bit because I mean it's your rookie year. Just for background too, even with giving out our most valuable prospect award for NACL, the way that we set the criteria is we think it is a wins above replacement award, that's a baseball stat. So it's how many wins will you be worth for your first 2 years of LCS? And we weigh year 2 more than year 1 because what kind of player you are matters more as you get more experience. So I would weigh Summer a little bit more. I mean, for me, I found this take interesting because I do think that Sniper, like, he's had a good split. He's had a good year. He's made a nice splash in the league. I think that the entire league would be pissed off if he doesn't have a spot next year, which speaks a lot to him and what he's been able to do. I just think that, like, for me, it's clearly Masu. I put, to be fair, I put both players in my All-Pro for both splits, which I think that that's pretty impressive for Sniper, because I think especially in top lane, it's actually, I thought like AD was kind of a question mark like last split. That's why B-Boy won first team All-Pro. The top lane was pretty defined, and Sniper was like able to like actually break in for both splits, which I do think is impressive. But Masu was, like, when I watch Masu team fight on a consistent basis, this guy is a legitimately really, really, really good player. And I think for Sniper, he doesn't have the consistency yet to be that really great player every game. I think that sometimes he is that great player, and other times he gets shut down, and like that's okay. That's part of learning. I think the top lane is a much harder role to play in LCS, whereas I think AD is the easiest role to plug and play at the pro level. So I think it should be Masu and then Sniper next. I think that Masu should kind of own in the votes, especially with this being a regular season award. But the way that Masu team fights and moves in team fights is legitimately really, really impressive. And he's always had that going for him. So he was the player that I was most excited to see debut this year in LCS, and I think he's the player that's taking home Rookie of the Year, and it's not going to be too.
Oh, you were more excited to see Masu this year than Sniper.
Yeah, the video I made for your channel, I had a lot of questions about.
Oh,
Sniper.
I didn't watch that.
Oh, okay. Oh, just making sure.
He didn't play the second I do remember this now because I do remember that. It's funny to think about it now because there was years of Sniper hype, and then I think kind of leading up to right before he started playing, there was kind of like a lot of people being like, well, he's really good, but he's gonna take a little bit, like I felt, I don't know if maybe at the end of the academy stuff last year or tier 2 stuff last year he had looked a little weaker or something after so much hype.
He didn't play in the second split. So he didn't play in summer.
Oh, because why didn't he play? I'm trying to remember.
I know the behind the scenes reason. I actually don't know if it was ever public.
I gotcha. Okay. And you're gonna share that right now.
I'm not.
Okay.
Everything's fine, No, I mean, it's 100 Thieves also wasn't a team in summer because we had the league change.
Right.
So he just opted not to play. Regardless, I mean, he was always kind of lined up to be the top laner for 100 Thieves.
Yeah.
So yeah. That said, like, he was just okay in spring for Challengers League. Like, again, he had moments, and it's always been really clear that he has hands, but like his landing wasn't consistently good enough. I think he played lanes a little bit too flippy. So yeah, I mean, I think he still has like some, I don't want to say weaknesses as a gameplay, but like if teams focus him, I think that he is vulnerable to being ganked and like doesn't always have the most impactful TPs or usage of TPs, but
do you feel
he
like
also has had some games where he's 1v9, so he does deserve that as well.
Do you feel like his highs are higher than Masu's and his lows are lower?
Okay, so I think that his highs are higher just because he's more important to his team than Masu is, which I do think is a fair argument, especially in spring. But in terms of what Masu consistently does, and honestly, I think that Masu has had some highs that are really crazy good. It's just people don't like kind of take it for granted, the fact that he's like just playing AD or again isn't the star of that team.
Right.
Like I think that Masu has had some highs or some team fights where I'm like, this is ridiculous what he's been able to do. But I just think that Sniper is like, he is the kid like coming up. He got more hype behind him, and he's a more important member to his team than Masu is to his own. So,
but did Masu have the stakes that Sniper had? I mean, like Sniper had almost everybody talking trash on him. Masu kind of just sat back, and I feel like everybody forgets this guy they were getting like 2v2 killed by every single team, including NRG. Like literally every single team 2v2'd them
In
last
summer?
season.
Oh, in spring?
Us last season, yeah. Which I feel like gets looked over because he got carried.
That's
No offense.
I don't think that's true. I do think that Bwipo and Inspired were stronger last split than they were this split. Like, I actually think that Masu deserves more credit for this split because, like, Bwipo didn't have his best split of LCS. He has been kind of up and down. So, yeah. Also, yeah, I don't know. I think Masu and Busio have actually been quite good this split. They just had a bad last 2 weeks, but they bounced back in playoffs, which I was really happy to see.
Yeah, I agree. Especially, I really want Busio to be a player that people can kind of be excited about, and I feel like he's had an interesting first couple of years, and so it's been cool to see him. Not to go too off topic, but yeah.
As someone that has watched Busio a lot and has always been very high on him, he's always been a little bit of a griefer. But you know what? If you're going to play support, I kind of want that. And he gets away with it because he has hands. And I think he's getting more and more used to it. He's had some really, really big plays. And I know that some people are saying, like, oh, he's a choker, like he hasn't played well. Look, I've seen him absolutely carry game 5s in Academy in the past. I do think that he struggled a little bit in the playoffs for FlyQuest, but I think that he got a lot of the, like, he got scapegoated a little bit. I think he's been playing really well this split. I hope that it like he keeps it up. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Spates, I'm sorry that we disagree because I guess I should admit that I also I don't know if I can reveal voting, but
I think it's a pretty easy vote from us. It's all public in the end, Travis. Just spoil it now.
Is it? I guess it is.
Yeah.
Because I remember they show All Pro, but I didn't realize they show. Yeah, I guess they do. Yes, if I recall correctly, and maybe I don't because I'm feeling a little under the weather, but I'm 98% sure I voted for Masu. So, which is just so strange because there was so much hype around Sniper from everyone except for Cubby, who never believed in him apparently. And that's what you said, right, Cubby?
Yes, I said that he had the longest way to go.
Yeah.
Which he's made a lot of progress.
Because he was at the bottom according to Cubby's standings. All right.
He was.
Thanks so much, Spates, for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out to NZXT. I actually bought a PC with your code. Pretty sick. They haven't broken on me. Nobody buys CyberPower PC. It's trash, and they don't give you refunds ever if their system's broken. That's it.
Thank you. It's one of the more unique ways we've had a sponsor shout out, but I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for the call. Yeah. We'll catch you next time.
All right, peace.
That was great. Okay.
Hasn't broken on it yet. That's good.
Yeah. Speaking of sponsors, let's do another sponsor shout out here. Let's shout out the wonderful Kia. They've been an amazing partner for Hotline League this summer. Really appreciate having them around. Still working on maybe doing something cool at summer finals that we will hopefully be able to talk about in very short order, but I'm not able to talk about yet. But while we wait for that cool announcement to be shared about summer finals, do me a favor, go check out an EV9. Actually, also check out an EV6 while you're at it. Fun fact for those of you that actually I can't reveal this. I have a friend who bought an EV6 over the weekend, but I'm realizing right now that she shared it on her close friend story on Instagram, which implies a certain level of privacy.
And implies that, you're a close enough friend to have that privileged information, which is cool.
Yes. But I'm realizing right now that I probably shouldn't name her explicitly. We'll just say I have a friend, and she got an EV6 over the weekend, and she's really, really excited about it. And I said, you should tell Kia that I am the reason that you got this. And she said, you didn't influence me at all. So what I'm trying to do is influence you, everybody, to get an EV, to check out an EV6, check out an EV9. They are fantastic cars. We got to drive the EV9 earlier this summer out to Vegas. Really enjoyed it. Working on getting a little bit of content out about that. So you can check it out. Also check out the 2025 K4, which is new this year. Has a whole bunch of awesome features and just, I think, industry-leading technology in that category. So it's just cool to see all the different things that Kia is bringing together. And again, shout out to everybody who's been checking out the Kia vehicles and letting me know via Discord or Twitter. Some folks have purchased some. I know somebody who was even in the used car market and decided to grab a used Kia, which is really cool. It's just fantastic to see how much the community has embraced them, and really hoping to have that sort of support rewarded soon as we get to talk more about what we're going to be doing at summer finals. That's just, I'll stop teasing and just say that for now. But again, thank you so much to Kia for sponsoring the show. They make amazing vehicles, and it's honestly, it's just been really cool to see all the things that they've been doing for LCS this year, because I think that for some folks there's a lot of conversation of like, oh no, are we not going to have as many sponsors this year? And then brands like Kia show up and really support the league and do cool things for not just the LCS but the community in terms of supporting the LCS teams that they partner with, like Cloud9 and NRG, or supporting community content like this. So thank you so much to Kia for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to talking more about what we'll be up to soon. All right.
Yeah, we got
people on Twitch chat think that the least believable part of all that is that I have a friend, and that's really nice of you all. All right.
No, it's actually the least believable part is that you're hip enough to know what the close friends feature is on Instagram. I think that's it.
Do you know? Okay, fun fact. If you look at my Twitch icon, I don't know if you have like Twitch open or whatever, yep. I have a like green border around my profile, and it's because I specifically went and added the green circle because I think that people are programmed from Instagram to see like the green circle around a profile picture and be like, oh, that's a close friends thing. I got to see what this is because it's like a secret thing. And so I'm like using the subliminal green circle technique that Instagram has used to try to get people to click onto my Twitch channel.
And then when you talk in Discord, you also get a green circle, and so you're just always yapping on here.
Cubby's off to grab the next caller. Thank you to, let's see, we got several subs. We got Apple Thief. Thank you for the 10 months. Magnarius, I believe I might have got you all, but just in case. We got ppdoc for the 17 months. Moonfish for the 43 months. Space Uwu Cowboy for the 190 bits. Vanished TTV, thank you for the Prime. Over on YouTube, we have no one. I can't shout out any of you. Twitch is crushing you, YouTube. You have more viewers right now than Twitch, and yet they're crushing you. Look, JB just subbed. Just resubbed, and so did Skizzle. Come on, YouTube. All right. Speaking of callers, we have ppdoc right now, who I just shouted out, calling on the show. ppdoc, where are you calling from?
Hey there, calling from Baltimore, Maryland.
Baltimore, Maryland. Did I say in the past that you were too quiet on the show? ppdoc? Did I say that your microphone was too quiet or something?
Yeah, say that again, sorry.
I was asking you if in the past I have been critical of your audio on the show.
Oh, that's ironic. No, I was just playing with. No, so my take today is that I think this weekend is going to be APA and Team Liquid's biggest test of the split, but not because of the team they're facing, instead of what they have to prove with the meta shifts. All
right. Do you want to explain a little bit more?
Yeah, so I think it's pretty evident that TL's been the best team all split, although there has been, one single sort of predominant, play style. They've had the AP junglers, they've had sort of the AD mid. APA's been able to really use Tristana and Zeri and Corki and some of these other champs to good success. But with the buffs we've seen to Azir, Oriana, amongst others, I think there's a lot of question marks still up in the air as to whether, he's still got kind of what it takes on those champs, or if some of the other folks that, have been proven on those champs, like, Jojo Pune, and we saw, Quid and even Quad looked, past week. Is he going to be up on sort of the micro level of just the mids? And then I think in the past we've also seen a couple Cloud9, years come to mind where they have this very dominant summer going into Worlds, and then there's a random meta shift right before Worlds that kind of upsets their typical play style, and then they kind of peter out and stumble into Worlds. So, my biggest question is that going to happen to Team Liquid or not? And if they can really prove themselves as able to kind of navigate this, what I would deem a kind of a subtle meta shift, then I think that they're in really strong position to be probably the best team we've ever sent to Worlds.
All right. I was not worried about Team Liquid. And
Are you
I'm
worried
trying to
now?
decide if I am now worried about Team Liquid, but I don't think I am.
I don't think I am either.
I feel like they've adapted pretty well in a world of live patches and best of threes.
Yep.
Throughout the entire split.
Also, their greatest strength is how well they play the map, which nothing changed when it comes to that in terms of what's been balanced. It's just the champions being played. Also, their opponent is 100 Thieves, correct? Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yes, it
is. I think that's, you're bringing up my exact point, which I think there's been a lot of talk about this meta shift, and I think a lot of people have been sort of focusing on like the champs themselves, and I hope that Team Liquid essentially doesn't fall into that trap. Like I think previous Cloud9 iterations and other, even TSM iterations in the past have fallen into we have to suddenly play these meta champs and sort of forget about the overarching macro and sort of chess match that Team Liquid is so good at playing against other teams. So I think if they can just sort of stick with that, not focus so much, just do what they do well, they should be fine. But I think we haven't, until we see it, I'm still going to be always a little bit questioning just based on NA's general track history.
Didn't you see they have the best coaching staff in the entire league, according to the awards? So that's another reason I'm not as worried about it.
But like they're going to be okay, but like you're somewhat skeptical.
I still think they're the best team in NA. I think they'll win the split. I think it's more about
a bigger test now.
Right, and I think it's going to be, instead of just bulldozing their way through and actually being obviously competitive at Worlds, just like they were at the event that shall not be named and MSI, then I think that they still have to prove this test that they can sort of navigate the speed bump, whatever you want to call it. Because if they have a really strong showing against the remainder, of teams in the playoffs and still bulldoze through and still stick with their good macro, then I think that they're pretty clearly the best team we've ever seen in the Worlds.
Okay. I mean, I think they're going to be fine. Like, my thing is, yes, the meta changed a bit, but the only champ that, like, APA hasn't really been, like, known for out of all those is Azir. Like, his Orianna is fine. Also, if Azir does come back, Acel got some tiny buffs like recently that I actually think that like he's playable. And I know that APA is known for old Acel, right? Anyone that has seen APA play old Acel, that you were in for a treat back then. He played that champion actually like to an insane degree. I don't think new Acel is like nearly as skill expressive, and his is fine. It's good, but it's not like as insane as the old one was. I think TL is going to be fine. I also think that the big thing for me honestly is that some of the ADs have been nerfed out of the meta, which APA has been quite good on. But I think that like Smolder coming in is going to be fine because TL can already play that. Like the double dragon strat was really big for them this past split. They could easily do it again. I think APA can pretty easily pick up Smolder mid too, which even 100 Thieves were playing and has proven to have some value worldwide. So I don't think the meta shift is actually like going to impact TL all that much. And I would be surprised if 100 Thieves takes more than one game off them. I think TL 3-0s, and it could be a 3-1. I just think they're too solid as a team. And I'll give 100 Thieves a potential of taking a game because I think they are playing with a lot of confidence right now, and that can go a long way. So we'll see.
No, I agree with Cubby. I think it's very unlikely that any kind of meta shift throws off this team. Cubby, do we have any calls about the coaching staff of the split thing?
No, we don't.
Because I was kind of memeing about it, but I do think like this is a good moment for me to just address the fact that like I actually think there's a very good chance that Spawn is the best person to ever coach in LCS.
After 1 year, Travis.
Yes. So
We're giving it to him over Reaper.
I get that is controversial.
Yeah.
I am not saying that he is the best LCS coach or like has the best history of LCS coaching. I am saying that if you look at the success that he has had as a coach throughout his career,
that's true. I brought
think
that up.
that he might just be like I was very frustrated that it took so long for him to become a coach in the league.
Same.
And there was a rumor that they wanted him last year, but because of like the language issues or whatever, it just didn't end up working out.
I can somewhat
You've heard similar things, I guess, is what you're suggesting. Yeah. And so I get that they're like Reaper has done a lot. I've said in a video earlier, the split that I did with Drew, where I was like, I think that when you get to watch Reaper versus Spawn, you might be looking at like the two best coaches that the league has ever had. And so I think that like, look, if Faker showed up, I guess he's having a rough time this year, but like in general, if Faker showed up in the LCS, I think a lot of people would be like, well, the best player to ever play in the LCS was Faker, even if he's only been here for 6 months. And I certainly am not trying to say that Spot is the Faker of coaches, but I do think that it is worth discussing if this guy is the best person to have coached in the league. And I get that that's like goofy considering that he hasn't coached in like another major league, but I just have a lot of faith in him as a coach. And I think that what he's been able to do with this lineup has been really impressive. I mean, I think Core in previous years has slumped and he has looked really good. I think if you look at what has happened with APA and Yon, it's really impressive. Impact is impact, but he continues to just do great things for this team. I don't know. I just really respect him as a coach, and I that is one of the reasons why I am not concerned about a meta shift, because I feel like he will be able to, and the staff that he surrounds himself will be able to navigate that for the team.
Yeah, I do want to shout out to the staff he surrounds himself with. I did get a chance to work with Spawn and some of that staff when he brought me in for a body to actually help for his academy tryouts going into 23. So I was like, he had 4 coaches for 4 teams. They had 20 players, so I was one of them. Those guys work really hard. It's really hard to know like what coaches do bring behind the scenes, but also it was so undeniable to watch TL play the map and how disciplined and consistently they were able to play out their maps and just finding so many scenarios that were good for them. And that is the main trait that I use to describe his rosters when I covered them in Challengers League. And so much like you, Travis, I am bummed it took him this long to make his LCS splash, and I'm very happy for him that he's making the most of it. I wouldn't anoint him as the best coach that we've seen in LCS yet. However, it is undeniable, even without knowing what a coach does, to see the impact that he has had on this team, or at least to see how disciplined they've been playing out the maps. I feel like everyone on that team deserves a lot of credit for the gameplay that they're putting out. It's actually like a really high level of gameplay.
Yeah, and I don't mean to take anything from the other players when I say this.
Yeah,
stuff. I just like in the conversation about like meta shifts and stuff. I feel like
yeah. This is the first year in a while.
Give him credit. Oh, sorry. I think you have to give him credit too. Like I know a lot of people just say, "Well, he's got impact, he's got core, he's got these, icons of the game that are great minds that have been around, different eras and seen lane swaps and seen all this stuff before." But there have been other roster iterations with those players on them that have not done so well. So I think there is something to be said that he is able to bring these, this lineup together, like you're saying.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's just undeniable, like what they've been able to put forward. This is the first split in a long time where we have people arguing that the NA teams are going to be better than the EU teams. And I really feel like that's because of the gameplay that TL is putting out and the other teams in the league trying to compete with it. It's actually set a pretty high level, and it's been really fun to watch. So, yeah.
I mean, Mad Lions is back at Worlds, so that they might pose a pretty big threat.
They're confirmed in? after the results of this past weekend?
I thought they were.
And we didn't talk about this being exciting on an NA show yet, Travis. This is a throwaway line.
Am I misinformed? I'm pretty sure that it is happening.
I mean,
I think we need to double check, but
no, I'm pretty sure you're right.
okay, not fully
they're
confirmed.
likely,
System
yeah,
chat.
they're just
I'm being corrected. It's Papa Smithy, who is
format
usually
is indeed a bit shit.
dude. I love Papa Smithy in Twitch chat says the format is a bit shit, and I think it's so funny because when you know Papa Smithy, I have found to try to be fairly diplomatic in terms of like criticism of Riot.
No, the format's
I think he'll speak about things, but he'll be like, I think it's really difficult to make formats, and so there's definitely room for improvement. So whenever he just shows up in chat and says the format is a bit shit, you know it's confusing as fuck. Yeah. Okay. If G2 beat BDS, Mad Lions are locked. Okay.
All right. So Mad Lions are there. I love life. This is gonna be great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
A free win.
All right. Anyway, sorry, we're way off topic. Yeah, I appreciate the take, ppdoc. We'll see. I think it is fair to point out that the sort of tests that a team face are not always the opponent across the rift from them. It is also oftentimes the way they have to adapt to the changes in the game. So if this ends up being a pretty big shift, we'll have to see how things go for them. Especially as you refer to like the mid lane stuff. But I'm fairly confident that they are going to weather this. And it sounds like you are too, because you also think that they're going to win summer. So
I'm straight.
Yeah. Thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, I'll shout out you guys as always. NZXT, Kia, PrizePicks, all your sponsors. Shout out to my son who's learning to ride a bike. I'm proud of him. He's doing great. And shout out to the eventual World Series champs, Baltimore Orioles.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for the call. And we'll catch you next time. Cubby, are the Baltimore Orioles going to be the World Series champs?
Probably not. But if anyone beats the Dodgers, I wouldn't be bummed if it's a smaller market team. So,
gotcha. All right.
Dodgers
the Dodgers are doing well.
Oh, of course they are. They spend the most every year.
Okay. Wait, I thought that was the Yankees.
Yankees also spend the most every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they in different leagues? Because there's like 2 leagues in baseball, right?
They are in different leagues. But the Yankees have won a lot more in their lifetime.
Look how knowledgeable about traditional sports I am.
Yeah, you're doing good. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We have 2 more callers to go. So it might be a bit of a shorter show, which I think is fine. It's just the 2 of us tonight, so it's kind of be fine. But yeah, let's grab the next caller. Thank you to JB for the 18 months, and it's Disco Cisco for the 6 months. Really appreciate it. Thanks everybody who supports the show through memberships or YouTube, but even, by the way, just becoming a follower of the Twitch channel is really nice and really appreciated. If you are watching over on YouTube and you're not subscribed, that's also a very nice way to support the content. It's actually, listen, folks, it's surprisingly helpful whenever folks go follow my social channels, and I try to link those in like the YouTube description for people on the VOD, or I've got a link tree places. So if you would like to, you can follow my social stuff, and that type of thing does go a surprisingly far way with the different brands and folks that we talk to. So please feel free to follow me on Twitter or Twitch or YouTube or Instagram. Instagram in particular is nice because whenever I'm in the dating scene in LA, it's all about how many followers you have on Instagram. Icebreaker's here. Speaking of icebreaking, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Indianapolis, Indiana.
Indianapolis, Indiana. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah. So I was just going to kind of talk about the fact that we had one weekend of LCS playoffs that was Saturday, Sunday. And now for the rest of playoffs, I think, or at least the next 2, the schedule is going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yes.
And I just wanted to kind of say that that's kind of weird. I think it would have been better to have playoffs on consistent days, i.e. just start on a Friday to begin with. So that way people expect that. But also if, just to kind of spin off from my take a little bit, if Fridays are an option going forward, I really think that or hope that next year we see more super weekends and more games being played, because if we could fit a double round robin in by utilizing Fridays, which they're clearly willing to do, seeing as we have games coming up on Friday this week, more games is good.
Well, okay. So, a couple of things here. One, I don't. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be I realized at the start of that sounded condescending. I didn't mean that. It's more laughing at sort of the way that Riot does its stuff. I think one challenge here is that you would need an extra match to do another Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? I'm not crazy in this.
Yeah.
Because they're doing Friday, Saturday, Sunday through, and then finals weekend is just Friday and Saturday. And finals are on Saturday. So there's no way to like generate that extra match to have it start as a Friday, Saturday. The other thing is that I actually kind of like this schedule more than in the past. I feel like a lot of playoffs have been like, you'll just have a random week that's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like a 4-day week or something because they're squeezing in an extra weekend or an extra 2 days on a Thursday, Friday. So I feel like this is actually better than normal. I was kind of surprised at how well the schedule worked whenever I saw it. I don't like the fact that that finals weekend is a Friday, Saturday. I think that the arena is probably not going to sell out on Friday. I'm worried about how empty it will look because people work on Friday, and it's easier to get them to come to something on a Saturday and a Sunday than it is to get them to go to something on a Friday and a Saturday. So that is my bigger concern with the playoff scheduling. I don't. So Icebreaker, I hear you on the like, well, look, they're willing to do stuff on Fridays. That means that they should do double round robin. The problem is if they do double round robin, they don't just need to do stuff on Fridays. They also need to do stuff on Thursday and Friday because you have to have twice as many games, right? So you can't just add one day. And I know a bunch of people, when we've talked about this past, a bunch of people show up and they're like, well, you could do like offline games. You could do 3 best of threes, which I think is kind of a really difficult thing to do. But I don't, you have teams that are playing multiple days. Multiple times on the same day. I just think it's going to be very difficult for them to do this stuff. And the biggest issue and the reason why they won't add these extra days is because it costs so much money for them to broadcast. And in adding like a Friday, making every week Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or even Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is again what I think they would have to do if they did double round robin, it just increased the costs dramatically for them. I mean, it is said not entirely, but from a lot of the production standpoint, it kind of like doubles the cost of making the LCS happen, just from a broadcast perspective, or when you're talking about it from a broadcast perspective. So I just don't see in this place where Riot is right now, where they're doing layoffs, they're cutting projects left and right, they're merging regions. Like I would be very surprised if we see them add extra days, even though I completely understand that the hardcore LCS fans would like to see more league and are probably frustrated when you look at other leagues and you see them having more broadcast days and more teams than we do.
Yeah, can I cut in for a second?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess the other thing too with like saying them being willing to use Fridays is like we're going to 3 splits next year. I believe that's been confirmed now at this point. So, like with the lockout split, I know it's something Cubby's talked about where it was nice to kind of have a very quick fire split. And if they're trying to make all the splits feel different next year, having, maybe maybe the first one that sends only one team international be a kind of like sprint finish where it's much shorter and they do, instead of it being over, I don't know, 5 weeks and having 2 game days, you do it over 3 weeks and it's 3 game days, something like that. Like not necessarily that they'd be adding days just to add days, but like removing other weekends to make the season more condensed if that's how they need to do it to fit in 3.
Let me ask you, I would encourage, well, first let me ask you, have you done like a mapping on what that looks like as a format or as a schedule? Icebreaker?
No, I haven't. I would imagine that you would probably end up with some teams having bye weeks and where they don't play at all, so that you have more teams playing twice rather than like only one team playing twice. And if Riot really wants to push teams doing content or with the league, I honestly think that the best case would be like you have teams on bye week, being the players that are in the studio that weekend. But in terms of like a formatting schedule, I'm not sure.
For your sake, and I think for a lot of people who look at scheduling, who look at the format, they want a different format, etc. I get like that a lot of people are like, well, I'd love to see them do this. I'd love to see them do 3 days or 4 days, or I'd like to see them do more weeks or less weeks, or I'd love to see it be a situation where every team can do this number of things or that moves into a bracket. I would really encourage folks who do these sort of theorizing or desires on like what a format would look like or a different schedule look like to actually sit down as they're thinking about this and be like, okay, let me look at what this looks like on a calendar, or let me look at what this looks like as you play it out. Because I think a lot of people come up with ideas on how to build a format or how to build a schedule, and they don't sit down and look at what that looks like from a calendar perspective or from like a logistics perspective. And there are times where I see people suggest formats that are like, okay, and some teams will play twice in one day, some won't. Sometimes people will have bye weeks, as you said, some won't. Sometimes people suggest schedules that if you look at it, you have to do like 12-hour days of broadcast, which is just not practical. Like, I don't think a lot of people spend time taking sort of the concept that's in their mind and trying to apply that to what it actually looks like in practice. And so when you're talking about like a very condensed schedule, the first thing I worry about is, okay, what does this actually look like from a viewing experience and from a player and team experience? The other thing I think about is like, I actually think a longer schedule that is across less days every week is going to be way better for viewership than a very condensed schedule over a few weeks, because it's a lot easier for people to be like, oh, I'll just watch on Saturdays and Sundays periodically throughout the summer than it is for them to be like, oh crap, I gotta watch 12 or 16 days out of the next month. I have to be watching LCS. And so I think these are the issues that I tend to run into or think of whenever I see or hear these different suggestions,
Yeah.
That makes sense. I like in my mind, I think like a sprint in through the winter split like makes the most sense. Like schedule it as close to like the leave date for the international event and just kind of, like make it so it's almost all on one patch or something. Because also in my mind too, like I do agree that the longer splits are better. But if they really want to make each split feel unique next year, I don't think that 3 splits that are all just Saturday and Sunday only are going to help that problem that they've kind of created for themselves by saying they want to make them all feel unique.
I mean, I think they're going to do that by changing the formats pretty dramatically, right? And doing things like
Oh,
having
fair.
Fearless Draft and having things like
Yeah.
events, or having formats where maybe you have a split where like the bottom teams get pushed out faster and you see a lot more play from the top teams. Or
Yeah.
I think they're going to make it that way versus like, well, fuck, we got to change the schedule to make this feel different,
I do want to chip in that I can actually see more of a sprint format actually being okay for specifically that first tournament, but also trying to get around the Valorant schedule. Like, again, I actually kind of prefer the sprint format. I think that, like, from what I've learned too with gaming and just competing, a lot of this is about peaking, and when you're competing year round, you can't always find the right times to peak as a team. So I actually think like having something a little bit more condensed, like, and also from a logical perspective, at least with Riot, like, I don't think they're going to be adding games, which is sad, but I do think it's true. But I can see something like condensing it. Maybe you're able to get like more Riot games, arena games, because it's around Valorant if it's condensed at the right time. And you can like find days where if you condense both schedules where the studio can be available for one game or the other. So I just don't know like how to map this out, or honestly, I know this spawned from a playoff point. I don't really know how to tie this back to this. I don't have an issue with the games being on Friday if the games haven't been on all split. It just needs to be communicated well, which oftentimes it's I find it hard to find at times, and sometimes if I find it hard to find at times, then I'm sure the fans do as well. So I think it was communicated well this time around, though.
I can't stop myself from raging out at Twitch chat here, so I'm gonna.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm gonna take a deep breath
Travis
here.
Katangi.
I'm gonna take a deep breath here. Okay, so two things. One, ppdoc, who was on the show earlier and is a longtime supporter of the show, and I really appreciate, says something that is. It's a tilting for me a little bit, which is it's our job as fans to dream big and Riot's to make our dreams come true. And I guess I disagree on both fronts. I think the job of fans are to appreciate the sport, want it to be bigger, want it to grow, and ask for more. And I think that's fine. But I don't think it is reasonable to dream to not have proper understanding of constraints and then say, well, just do this, five head. You know, like I don't think that is reasonable. You can't say like, well, I just want LCS on every night of the week, and that's my dream, and it's Riot's job to make that true. Like I don't think that is fair. Like what I often try to do on the show and in my content is try to explain the context for why Riot makes decisions that they do and the constraints that they have. And that's not because I'm trying to be some mouthpiece for them. It is because like I want fans to have an understanding of like where are the areas that are reasonable to push, you know? Like, okay, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to double the budget for the LCS when there are tons of layoffs to be able to get like twice as many broadcast days. The league just doesn't make money. Fans don't want to spend money on the product. That is not something that we could do. But maybe you want a different format for the days that the broadcast is available. Okay, then let's push for that together, you know? Or maybe you want us to hold teams more accountable or to change the roster turnover or something. Like there are a lot. I just want. I see so much passion and energy and dedication from the LCS fans, and I just want them to be pushing in areas that are like fruitful, because I think that nothing is ever going to happen whenever Riot looks at the audience and sees the audience screaming for stuff that is like impossible for them to do if they want to run any kind of sustainable business, and they don't, and then you know the fans just keep pushing on it, and then both sides just give up on each other and get jaded. I'd much rather provide the context. The other thing that I saw is the exact thing I was just talking about, which is like, please think about what this actually means. So, for instance, it's Disco Cisco asks, I think, a reasonable question, which is like, historically speaking, why would simply adding Friday to Saturday and Sunday not work? Is that too expensive for broadcast? Well, in some sense, yes, because you're adding 50% more costs to Riot's broad production costs, and like, it, you know, if it's costing them 20 grand or 30 grand to have a day of broadcast, maybe even more. I don't know. But LA is expensive and you have to pay a ton of people to operate all this stuff and do all these things. Then yeah, like it is pretty difficult for them to do it from an expense perspective. But then I also asked Disco Cisco, what would that look like from a format perspective or a games perspective? And we had Woe to You say, whatever it needs to be, ? When I perceive that to feel kind of sarcastic. And I'm like, you can't just be like, just add games. You have to also be able to say, and here's how that leads to a better format. Because if you're just adding broadcast days and you're just like, fuck it, just add random games in, who cares what the format looks like? Then you're going to end up with like a shit format. Or you're going to end up with games that don't like, what if you need to make these show matches? I think you need to have an answer for what you are doing with an extra set of days, because you can't just add Friday right now and then make a round robin that makes sense. And again, you end up in a weird situation where you have some teams that are playing twice in a week and others that are playing once in a week. And you have to figure out how to do this weird thing where like, you have teams that are playing back-to-back Friday, Saturday. Is that unfair to the teams that have different schedules? Maybe there are solves for this. But all I'm saying is that running a league over all these days is a big, complicated machine that you have to build so that at the end of the day, the teams and the fans and everybody feel good about it. And just saying things like, just add an extra broadcast day a week, which, and I'm not trying to be mean to you, Icebreaker, or to Disco Cisco. I'm more frustrated with Woe to You, who just says, like, just do it. Like, that's not like a practical answer. It's a weird kind of like five head thing. It's like, Travis, just go to Worlds. I don't care if you have a sponsor, just do it. Or like, hey, Team Liquid, just win Worlds. Like, just do it. You know, like, there are constraints, there are difficulties. You have to figure out how to solve for a lot of things. And so just saying, just do something, five head, or like dream big, and our job is to dream big and your job is to make it happen. Like, it just drives me crazy because I feel like those types of sentiments just make people at Riot or people at the teams or even myself just tune out on like the desires of fans, because it's like, okay, that is not, I want to have this conversation with people, but just sort of saying just do something, five head, is not, it's not practical. Okay, so anyway, there's my rant. Cubby, please.
I got nothing else to add to that.
Sorry, caller, if I went off on a rant. It was more Twitch chat that got me worked up than you, but I don't know if you have anything you want to rebuttal with me about on that.
YouTube chat is better. That's about all I got to say. But no, I mean, I think it's fair to. I mean, you know, I'm an engineer. Like, everything I do is, you know, cost versus benefit. So I definitely understand it. I definitely, you know, half baked this take to say that Energy is gonna dog walk all over Dignitas this weekend. But Cubby didn't want that one, so that was gonna be my shout out. So
Give the shout out.
oh yeah, well, I mean, Energy is gonna dog walk over Dignitas this weekend.
Okay.
And yeah, the funny thing is you know, I looked into it today. Every member of the old Dignitas squad that got kicked, I believe, has a better chance of going international, or has a better chance of going international than the current Dig roster. Because Rich is, I believe, now an LCK talent member, so he might go to Worlds as talent. XU is, and also if you're looking for a playoff League of Legends on days or times that are not the LCS, especially not this Thursday, but next Thursday, is Dragonsteel versus FearX Starforge.
Ooh.
I am hoping for a banger series after the Fear and FlyQuest Challengers series this weekend.
The winner does make Tier 2 Americas, which is international. So yes, could be XU.
International.
Could be XU.
Yeah. Mask, who was with
mean
them
Dove?
last. Dove, yes.
Yep.
Dove. He went to Blue Whales in Vietnam, and they placed third. And top two in that region go to Worlds play-ins. So they were one match away from going to a Worlds playoff. And Tomo is, I would say, 100 Thieves are in a little bit better of a chance of maybe making it to Worlds than Dignitas are. So in blowing up their roster, every player had a better chance to go international, and I just think that's a little funny. So
he definitely says something to like.
That is a funny stat.
I not to go off on the sidelines here, but I think it's a good point, and this year in particular, I have spent more time than I think in the past considering the impact of an organization on a player's capabilities, and how there's just like an inherent buff or debuff that orgs seem to be able to apply to the teams and the rosters that they have, where you can make an amazing roster, and for some reason you stick it out at a certain org, and whatever's going on there leads that roster to underperform. I feel like fairly confident that if Dig had all the Dig players had C9 in front of their name, that they would be performing a lot better this split, and I don't know why that is. Probably a bunch of different reasons behind the scenes that we are very difficult for even the people working at these companies to understand. But anyway, thank you so much, Icebreaker, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
As a follow-up, Road to You says, I apologize for triggering you. My intention was not to make you upset, but I do stand by Riot should do more. I love everything you do. I think if anybody, I am a huge proponent of Riot should do more, so I totally get it.
Yeah, I will say I do think it's somewhat of like a fan's job to dream big. I think like some of the stuff you were talking about, like just by being there and like having hopes for the league, like that does involve dreaming big. So I don't want to discourage that, but yeah, I sadly I don't see a way that Riot adds like a bunch more days to this. I think that it's likely that leagues will get narrowed down around the world. It's more likely that's going to happen rather than adding days to catch up. So, yeah.
I also just see as a follow-up to this, Caro Grips in the chat says, hey, how is OGN able to do all this without going bankrupt forever? And I'm like, okay, well, one, I don't know if they were making money. OGN,
they had subs from day one, Travis. That has to be why.
Yeah, well, I assume this is like old school. When we're talking about OGN, we're talking about like ancient, pre-LCK OGN is what I assume people are talking about. The original sort of league and group that were running a bunch of esports stuff over in Korea. Broadcast network, I guess, is maybe the better way of saying it. And I'm like, one, I don't know if they were making money. Like, maybe they were, but I don't think that we should just assume that they were. And two, like the economics back then were just way different than they are now. And the economics in Korea are way different than they are in the US. Similarly, I think, afterwards, people were pushing back and they said, this individual said, then can we look into the FGC and how they seem to run events with a fraction of the resources Riot provides? I would ask you, how many days is EVO? How many days is LCS? Like, if the complaint is there's not enough days of LCS, I don't think that looking at like these sort of one-off tournaments that exist in the FGC, and admittedly, I'm not an expert on all the FGC stuff. I went to EVO this year, and I've followed FGC from the sidelines for a while. But like, there are a lot of the, to my knowledge, a lot of the attempts at bringing in a long-term league into the fighting game world, like what we see in the LCS or in other League of Legends regions, they went away. I think in part because it's hard to make that stuff profitable, and they don't have the support of publishers often to make that type of thing happen. So I don't know. I don't know. I get that people get frustrated about this stuff and they want to see more from Riot, but like, I'm not saying that Riot gets it right all the time. And I think in the past several years, they've gotten it probably wrong more often than not. But I just feel as though, there's just a misunderstanding on a lot of this type of thing.
All right. Should we get to the last caller?
Yes. Oh, wait, no, we have to. We don't have to. We get to talk about PrizePicks.
Yes.
Thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Sorry, this will help me reset my brain. Thanks to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Really love and appreciate the support that they provide. And again, I continue to really enjoy seeing everybody sharing their lineups in the Discord. We saw this past weekend Patrick, one of our Discord users, sharing their picks in the chat. And they, unfortunately, I believe, did lose out on one of their lineups, which was this Busio Contracts Dokle Quad lineup. Busio at trying to get more than three map kills in the first two maps, or first two games. Dokle less than 7, Quad more than 12.5. That all hit. But then Contracts, unfortunately, got more than 6 kills. Contracts, as we were discussing, is one of the shining lights on NRG, and was unfortunately not the shining light in Patrick's situation, but just barely missed out on that game of PrizePicks that Patrick was playing. So, look, folks, I know I've said it before. I'll say it again. Signing up for PrizePicks, making your first-time deposit is an amazing way to support the show. If you can do so responsibly, please go check it out. It is a fun thing to get into for many people who have enjoyed it. And you can go, especially during playoffs, it's pretty fun to try, I think, looking at some matchups, maybe your favorite team, maybe your favorite player, putting $5 on, playing $5 as a prize pick lineup and seeing what you get out of that. Really do appreciate PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. They've been a really fun partner, and it has just been really cool to see a lot of people playing fantasy, daily fantasy stuff with the LCS teams and also the League of Legends teams in general, even in other esports or traditional sports, and sharing that over in the Discord channel. So really appreciate PrizePicks. Signing up and making that first time deposit is super cool. And again, I've received some stats that a lot of you will sign up, and I really appreciate that, and then won't make that first time deposit. So if you have made that account and you're thinking about playing, I know that oftentimes we're talking about this on the show, and then the lineups aren't available for play until maybe later on in the week. And so you're like, well, the teams are not here. Well, they usually tend to go up the day before. So I think Thursday afternoon, you can go check and see if you want to play sort of the Friday LCS games. So, maybe just remember, yes, I'm listening to Hotline League on Monday night or Tuesday morning or whatever, but you can go make those picks later on in the week. And doing so is a really great way to help the show. So thanks to Mr. PrizePicks for sponsoring. Really appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's been sharing their lineups in the Discord chat. It's been really fun.
All right. Last call. Here we go.
Off Cubby goes. It's funny. I said this might end up being a shorter episode, and then I went on a massive rant. My bad. All right. Thank you to Disco Cisco for the 6 months, JB for the 18, PCMX 56 for the Prime, Jgob, thank you for the Prime. ppdoc gifted 3 subs, which is very generous of them after I tilted out. All right. Dana is here. Dana, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Texas.
From Texas. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, so I kind of, after hearing some of the discussion around All-Pro and Rookie of the Year, I wanted to call in and basically make the argument that I think that Bwipo is still the second best and at worst third best top laner in the league. But I think because people don't like him based on his personality, which I can understand, that they have just like a really selective bias, or they see. Emily made a pretty similar point on broadcast on the weekend, that people just see his deaths, but they don't see the impact that the pressure he has on the game. And I think it's been an intentional, like kind of one of the other things y'all were talking about earlier in the show, where it's like, oh, Bwipo's had a shaky split and the bot is playing so well. But I think this has been like an intentional strategy shift by FlyQuest due to the meta where ADs are strong, farming AP junglers are strong, and so Bwipo is getting way less resources than he got the previous split. Like in spring, I think they were generally setting him up for R5 counter picks, with way more jungle presence top. And now I think they showed on broadcast over the weekend that that it was like the 6th least jungle presence top, where versus like kind of the other top laners you might compare him to, like the Natos or Impact or Sniper. Generally, at least I couldn't find the stat, but I watched most of the games and it seems like they generally are playing 3 top side a lot more often, and he's often, so he's blinding tanks top to get better matchups bot. Like even for instance, like the Nautilus game, like that, that was an intentional strategy to get a better matchup bot. So I don't think it's just like 2 coincidences in some sense where it's like, oh, Bwipo's playing so much worse and like bot's playing much better. I think Bwipo's just generally playing well still. Like, I can think of a few games where, like even over the weekend, where like to say the Darius game, for instance, like they send 3 bot, Bwipo trades 1 for 1 in a 3v1, and then they get mid tower and top tower. And like even in that Nautilus game, a very similar situation happened where he trades 1v1 weak side, and then they get top G1, top G2, and it's like a 3,000 gold swing. And so I think that often happens where it's like, oh, Bwipo's dying, but I think generally he's still playing really well, and like I think his stats match up very well, like over the course of the split to the Nanos and Impact, while getting way less resources than they do in draft and in
so
game.
It sounds like you think we're all just haters. Bwipo's good, we're just all haters.
I think a little bit, yeah. I'm not saying Bwipo plays perfect. He definitely has like some bad deaths, but I think all the top laners do. And I generally think it's like people just remember those bad deaths way more because it's Bwipo.
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm happy that after my giant rant, I can finally seat the microphone to Cubby for a topic.
Yeah. I'm trying to go find some of the stats we're referencing. I mean, I actually think it's pretty accurate that FlyQuest kind of lives and dies by Bwipo. And I think Bwipo sometimes is off to his own devices, but I mean, we even saw that in the series against NRG, right? And the Voldabear game, he got nothing done, right? Like that pick, I am kind of the mind of like, if we're gonna pick fully and go full tank, why aren't we going Ornn? I think the Voldy provides more pressure early, but they didn't really use that. And when you go full tank, you have a smaller window. I appreciate, like, we get to see Bwipo's champ pool, which has always been a little bit unique. I do think that Bwipo, like, has ways to find pressure. I do think he actually pressures the map quite well, but, like, I think that I hold Bwipo to a higher standard, especially after seeing how well he was playing in spring. And regardless, he has not hit that spring level this split. I still think he's on a top 3 team. He is a big part of that top 3 team. I don't know. I mean, I had Sniper over him, which might be a little bit of like team bias. I think that I was like actually close. I don't get a vote. I assume that Bwipo is going to be probably third team All Pro or Sniper, but Impact's like inarguably MVP for me. And I think Thanatos also had some moments where he was caught out on map or didn't quite play deploys as well, but for me was like more so solid than Bwipo and also less important to his team in a way, so he just did his job. I don't know if I think I'm a part of why we're being hard on Bwipo is because like we just have higher expectations for him. I think that's very fair given what he's done as a player. I don't think it means he's been like he hasn't been great. I don't think he's been bad, but there have been games where he hasn't been good, right? And I think we've seen more of those than usual.
Would you say he's been vegan?
No, because
kidding.
he plays for, better or worse, we're trying to play up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I do think I can see the argument for Thanatos maybe. But
Yeah.
Sniper, that's his cap, like 100%. Like if we go
Okay.
into the stats, like Sniper's ahead in CS 36% of the time through this split. Like Impact 70%, Thanatos 68%, Bwipo 61%. Like Sniper's generally losing his matchups, right? So I just don't think so. And like even in the head-to-head, there was the what was it? Bwipo blinded Cassante into Camille and like had that rough game, but in the other 2 games, Bwipo was his father, right? And then in Spring Split, the same thing in their 2 head-to-heads, like Sniper was killing everyone, but Bwipo, right? Like Bwipo was still his father in Spring Split as well. So I just really don't see that at all. Like, yeah, Sniper gets the 1v1 kills, but generally, like, look at their impact in the game and like what they're doing macro wise. Like Sniper also has some pretty poor teleports, but generally doesn't have a lot of pressure on the map either. Like when you look at even Bwipo or Impact, like they're getting T2s, they're pressuring hard, and then get strong teleports in and like have these like game winning engages versus like I don't know, Sniper has some good games, but overall over the course of the split, I just don't see that at all.
I mean, I think the Sniper, like, especially in regular season, his team wasn't nearly as good. And I do think the top lane's like a really difficult role for a rookie to come in and play well in. I mean, I don't feel super strongly about like how well Sniper Bwipo performed. I feel like Sniper still for me overachieved expectations this split, whereas Bwipo underachieved. And I don't care that much about like what the stats say. I'll be honest. I go through the tape and I try and go through the eye test. I feel like there are games where on a worse team, I feel like Sniper was forced to step up more so and was able to do so sometimes, and then other games where he, really struggled, kind of like what happened with like there are a couple games where Bwipo really struggled too, whether it's based off picks or something else. So I don't know. Yeah. I like I said, I think Bwipo ends up winning, like being on the All Pro, but I hope we get to see like more of the good from Bwipo in playoffs because I do appreciate some of his reads and picks. And I feel like we have yet to see everything that he's got in his bag so far. Some picks are better than others, but I'm kind of curious to see what that ends up being in the end.
Yeah. What did you think of? I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning of the show, but what did you think of him this past weekend?
I thought he was fine. Again, like the Volibear game, he was pretty useless in that game. And like was set behind, and Volibear is just not a useful champ if you were behind. I think in that draft, I would have much rather had an Ornn. But the other games, he was good. I thought the Darius pick and the game that he played out was actually quite good. And like he was fine for the rest of the series. I also think that like Dokla struggled this split and still struggled. I know Bwipo tweeted out the image of Dokla's Rumble game like history, and I forget what VOD I went through where I was watching like NRG and Dokla play Rumble, and I was like, I would not be picking this champion for this player or team. I kind of found that funny. Yeah, he's 0-6 on Rumble this split. And
Wow.
I don't think it was very in sync. What series did he play it? Oh, he played it both games against TL, and it was kind of ugly. Same with both games against Dig, and it was kind of. I think that was the one where it was ugly. Regardless, I think that Bwipo was definitely to be more so challenged against C9. Caller, well, let's get an actual. We haven't had any playoff predictions. I know this wasn't your take, but I am going to put you on the spot since you were talking about Bwipo. Does FlyQuest have a chance against C9? I feel like a lot of people have written them off after seeing it, like them play so late in the season, and it being a 2-0 in C9's favor. But one of those games was competitive, and I feel like the bot lane for FlyQuest did play quite well this last week. Do you have any hope with some, Bwipo Hopium as well that we can actually find a win?
Yeah, maybe I can cook up some FlyQuest Hopium for a win. I definitely, getting O2'd, I can totally understand the argument of like, they're just going to lose again. But I would say both games, though, I think they were in winning positions, right? Even like the sort of like everyone's talking about how they're sort of trolling with the sort of Nautilus and Isla. Like, I think if you sort of freeze frame a little bit before like Bwipo goes to proxy the wave and Inspired taking red, like I definitely think that situation, could play out in a few different ways where like it goes well and they win the game, like they just snowball their lead continually. And so I think pretty easily both games, and with the first game, like they had like a more early game comp and they just didn't snowball hard enough where they eventually get outscaled. And so I think a few things go different in both of those games. Those could have been winning games for FlyQuest. And so I'm sort of hopeful that one, they have some good learnings from NRG because that wasn't a perfect series by any means. And sort of like it'll be the reverse of what happened to FlyQuest last split, where they were like overconfident and then sort of lose in playoffs and going to the upper bracket run. I'm hoping that, with FlyQuest being a little more of the underdog and sort of getting sort of a bit of a wake up call with one lost NRG and like none of the games looking super clean besides the lane swap game where they're like proxy farming Scion basically. And just, it's an easy win. So I'm hopeful, and even if they don't, we see that the lower bracket can be OP sometimes. So, they could maybe pull a TL as well, even if they do lose and sort of level up in the lower bracket run.
C9 3-2.
That's what you got, Travis?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna take C9 3-1. I'll give FlyQuest a game, but I feel pretty good about where C9's at right now.
I think FlyQuest 3-2. We'll see.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I hope it is. Okay, hang on. What's the schedule? Okay, so I feel like we need that FlyQuest C9 game to be good, or that match to be good, because I think there's. I don't think most people would feel like the matches this past weekend were really good. I think there's a good chance that the NRG and Dig game doesn't feel great based off of the games from this past weekend. I like the idea that 100 Thieves might be able to contest TL. I think it's unlikely. I believe Covey, you also predicted TL 3-0 this weekend. This coming weekend.
No, I said 3-1.
Oh, okay.
I think 100 Thieves has enough aura to get at least a game.
Yeah, I'm hoping that
3-1.
I'm hoping that is a good match. But if you told me that it's like a stomp, I'd believe you. And so I think there's a good chance that we might be on our 5th day of playoffs and just hoping for some sick matchup. And that's the way it is with playoffs brackets, right? Because you're going to have a lot of the stompy stuff happen early on because you're intentionally seeding it that way. But I would love to see a really great match this weekend and hopefully multiple. But I
have faith in Fly C9 being good. Even if it's a 3-0 or 3-1, it could be a good series still, Could be competitive. I think it's going to be competitive for sure.
Yeah. It would be crazy if C9 gets knocked down into the losers bracket and has to figure out how to get back out. Wouldn't be the first time climbing out of something, but like, I don't know. I do feel like you kind of have like this TL, then kind of below them C9, then like a decent gap, and then FlyQuest, and then you just everything starts falling down from there.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Again, I think that FlyQuest, like, they're a team that can play up to that level, and I did have them, like, pretty high up, like, with C9 for most of the split. I don't feel like they played their best against Shotfire Rebellion. They didn't play their best against C9. They are a team that will drop random games throughout the split, like they did they dropped a 4-game against NRG, I think, on playoffs. So I still think, though, that they have the potential to play up to that level. C9's been quite good, so yeah, I guess C9 3-1.
I'm doing a vote right now over on Twitch. I don't know if this will work okay. I couldn't put all the different iterations in because I couldn't put 0-3 like FlyQuest 3-0's C9. But I also feel like that's the least likely. So everybody go vote. I'm curious what people are going to say is the likelihood. Looks like C9 3-1 is definitely the leader. It's huge. Lots of votes for C9 3-1. So Twitch chat weighing in. Sorry, YouTube, I don't have time to add one in for you guys, but also Twitch wins the poll this week because they showered me with subs. All right. Thank you, caller, for the take. I do appreciate the conversation, and I think Bwipo is definitely a worthy topic over the course of the split, and especially heading into playoffs. I feel like there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, especially if, as Cubby says is true, FlyQuest kind of lives or dies by him. So we'll see what happens. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Yeah, just shout out to y'all and shout out to FlyQuest as well. Looking forward to the playoffs this weekend.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Thanks so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fun, chat, like during that series, they had the win rates for FlyQuest, like when Bwipo's up versus when he's down. I feel like FlyQuest, like, they need their bot lane to show up, though, because when they played bad, like, FlyQuest were all out of sorts. Because if their bot lane shows up, then I do think that, like, that can kind of, if Bwipo's just the pressure soaker, I think that's where the FlyQuest comfort zone. Their bot lane's really good later in the game. Like, Masu's really, really good later in the game. I have a lot of faith in him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think this weekend should be interesting. I'm looking forward to it. But that is the end of the show. So anything you want to shout out here, Cubby?
No. I've actually shout out to everyone that has went to support my YouTube. I got partnered on YouTube this past week.
Congratulations. That's cool.
Yeah, so I just been posting my VOD reviews from when I stream them. And I did not get to those today, but I'm a little bit behind on NACL, LCS, and that. But yeah, shout out to anyone else that tuned in the Challengers League playoffs as well, on top of LCS. So we actually had some really competitive series, especially FlyC and Fear Starforge. So shout out to those teams that I feel like put together a really competitive best of 3. And Dragonsteel and Fear Starforge are one win away from deciding, or one series win away from being the first team to go to the Tier 2 international tournament for the Americas tournament. So yeah. That's
cool. Yeah, I'm excited. Obviously, it's cool that those are two of the teams that had pretty big announcements at the start of the split. But obviously it would be cool for me as a fan of Brandon stuff to see Dragonsteel pop off. So I guess we'll see what happens.
Pretty good chance because they've been playing damn good league all split.
I feel like they surpassed your expectations.
They did. I thought that without Niles, they would just be okay, but their bot lane like really scaled up, and UG continues to be the best player in the league. This meta was really good for him. That guy's really, really talented. The only thing stopping UG from being an LCS player is truly the fact that he counts as an import. So, yeah.
Shout out Yoser for the Prime. Appreciate it. I'm going to probably stick around on stream for a little bit afterwards. No sponsor stuff today, but I'm just going to hang out and talk chat and maybe open some magic packs or something. I don't know. Just have a good old chill time with everybody. But big shout out to all of you who tuned in this week. I know we didn't have a guest. It's kind of hard. It's slim pickings during the beginning part of the playoffs because everybody is leaning in on getting there and all that stuff. And the teams that are eliminated, I think, are still kind of in mourning. So hopeful that we'll have somebody on next week. But honestly, as I've said in the past, when we do these episodes where it's just me and Cubby, or even back when it was me and Mark, sometimes it's just nice for the two of us to chat about stuff and really have. I think it opens up a lot more space for the callers to be able to speak as well, because we had a lot more back and forth with callers whenever it's not sort of the panel of 3 or 4 people there. So, but also a big shout out to NZXT. Please sign up with the link, or I say sign up. Go purchase something with the link. Take a look at Kia, and then also, as I was meant to say, sign up with PrizePicks with the link. Make your first time deposit, but using code Travis when you do sign up is very helpful. Also using the link, all that stuff is available in the description. It's very cool. So thank you to all of our sponsors for supporting the show. And yeah, hoping to have some cool news next week. And other than that, we'll catch you all next time whenever we have 3 exciting matches to talk about after the end of this coming week. So see you all on Monday.